What if the secret to better time management isn't about just color coding and time blocking, but it's about designing amazing films and creating award winning apps? Today, our guest has done both. This is an amazing episode where I get to speak about what it means to be ethically centered when it comes to time management and designing amazing complex systems. This is another story of MoloMolo African Tech Stories. I'm Dr. PK. Let's go. Welcome to another episode of MoloMolo African Tech Stories. I am so excited today because I am joined by another star hitter of a guest. His name is Stephen Puri, who is a CEO and founder of Suka company. And a platform designed to help people work smarter and stay focused and live more fulfilling lives. Without further ado, welcome, Stephen, to MoloMolo African Tech Stories.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I hope we have some fun and helpful stuff to share.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Stephen, I thought we were speaking off air just about different things, and I want to give you just a bit of a chance to just tell us a bit about who you are and, kind of your journey to opening up this company and just a bit of an overview.
Everyone loves to talk about themselves, so I will try to be concise. This is only
Yes.
a 2-hour podcast, right?
Exactly. Only 3 hours.
Okay, perfect. So as a child, I often use crayons. So let me frame what I'm about to say with this, which is after the things that I'm about to tell you, what I've become very passionate about is how are we smart with how we work? How do we have healthy productivity? It's why I named my company the Suka company. Suka is I do a lot of yoga. I have a daily yoga practice. It's how I met my wife in yoga.
Oh, wow.
And you hear a lot of Sanskrit terms, doing yoga, prana, breath and life force, things like that. And Sukha means the happiness from self-fulfillment, from doing the thing that you were meant to do, and you're good at it, and it feels great to do it. So ultimately, the journey I've been on is, what did I learn about how to feel self-fulfilled and feel healthier through being productive, doing work? So I'll tell you, there are kind of 3 strange acts to my story, and I hope there are more to come. I'm not going to play in the street with buses or anything, so there may be more. But in the early sort of episodes of my life, my parents were both engineers at IBM. My mom was a software engineer writing code. My dad was a hardware engineer, both raised dirt poor. Work ethic. You will work hard and do something with your life. This is how we've afforded a house and food on the table, right?
Yeah.
So my mom taught me to code, and that was super interesting when I was little, especially as, just spending time with your mom and having something like that, that bonds you. So I got a scholarship to go to USC in Los Angeles. And here's where the story takes a funny turn, which is while I'm at USC, which has a great cinema TV school, a lot of my buddies in the dorm, you're a little freshman, they're aspiring, George Lucas's and Steven Spielberg's, stuff like that. And they all talk about movies. So we talk about movies a lot, right?
Yeah.
Now, I also knew how to code. Here's the funny thing. USC is in Los Angeles. I had now gotten a bunch of friends in entertainment. And I was there when film went digital. When suddenly computers came into the world of film and said, we can digitize that photochemical film, manipulate it, and put it back on photochemical. So you saw all of these effects movies explode.
Wow.
And I lived in that little intersection of the Venn diagram between I could speak to my buddies who were filmmakers and I could speak to an engineer because I was an engineer. I was making money on the side working at IBM as a junior software engineer, right?
Okay.
So my story is probably a series of very lucky things that fell in my lap, followed by a lot of work to make something of them, right? This was the first one. Oh, wow. I can do this. My friends invited me in, started working, and ended up producing the computer-generated effects, the digital effects for a number of movies, including Independence Day, for which we won the Academy Award for visual effects, right?
Yeah.
So that was awesome. I set up a company with the director and producer. We got along really well on that production. And they said, let's do a company together because we're going to do a lot of effects movies. And plus, we have a lot of friends who are effects, kind of driven directors. So that was kind of my 20s, was doing that. And what was really cool is I worked with some of the big action directors. Yes, I worked with Jim Cameron. I worked with David Fincher. I worked with the guys that you know. But also because we were a very artistically driven company, I worked with directors you wouldn't normally associate with effects movies. I worked with Woody Allen. I worked
Oh,
with
wow.
Jim Jarmusch on a little Johnny Depp movie, like some odd, offbeat sort of, films. And that was an amazing experience for me. So to do this, we get an offer from a big German conglomerate called Das Werk. It's like Liberty Media of Germany. And they buy us out. So suddenly I was 27, 28, and I'd sold a company. And I was like, wow, this is all so easy. Cut to later, not so easy, right? life tricks you. So I was like, this is great. What do I want
Yeah.
to do with my life, right?
Yeah.
And this is the first big act turn where I went off, thought about this. I had a fantastic girlfriend, still one of my very good friends, and said, you know what I think I want to do? I got a taste by being sort of an engineer in people's movies of what it's like to be the person making the movie. I want to grow down that path. I want to be a producer, or maybe a studio chairman or something, like getting movies made, right? So I launched into doing that. Went at a very low level into that field because it seems related in that you're all making film, but in reality, it's a whole different set of contexts. It's a very different sort of thing. So I worked my way up, as you know, luck plus hard work. Ended up as executive vice president, DreamWorks for Kurtz and Morsi, 20th Century Fox as vice president, running the Die Hard franchise, the Wolverine franchise, stuff like that, right? So did that, and it was really a moment at Fox where I was like, next turning point in my life, which is I was at Fox for 2 years, and they've been very generous comp-wise with me. And, part of the allure was the chairman of Fox Film Entertainment said, if you come here, I will give you the Die Hard franchise to run. I'm like, I grew up watching the Die Hard movies.
Amazing.
Like, I remember being a little kid, being like, wow, John McClane.
That's amazing.
Yippee-ki-yay,
Yeah.
So that I got to work on the Wolverine sequel. And I said, yeah, I went over there. They very much wanted to bring in better writer-directors. And at DreamWorks, because it is a fantastic studio, like Steven and Stacy Snyder, who was the chairman at the time, ran a great studio and really aimed for high quality. So I had a relationship with a lot of the top writers in Hollywood developing films. So Fox's interest was come here, bring your relationships, and let's try and make better movies. So I did that. And then let's cut to like 2 years in. And I had a conversation with my boss, again, who's the co-chairman of the film studio. And the only movie on my slate he really wanted to make was Die Hard 5, which was a terrible script. It was the worst script on my entire slate. It was so awful. Matter of fact, after I left film, the guy who wrote it was kicked out of the Writers Guild for plagiarism. Right?
Oh, wow.
So this guy had been on this project when I went to Fox, had to work with him, and he's a really fun guy. Like, he's a fun guy to hang out with, but not a great writer, right? And I was like astonished this was the only movie that my boss wanted to make when I had all these projects with really talented people, and he would ask me about that. So we had this moment where I was like, okay, I get it. This is a studio franchise. He was super honest. He's like, listen, if we put this movie out, it doesn't need to be good. As long as the poster says Die Hard, I know it will make this amount of money. If you make it for less than the amount of money it'll make opening weekend, I don't care. I keep my job, right? And I was like, oh, incredible honesty, but boy, is that depressing. Think like, I don't care if your product is good. Just get it out by Christmas and, we'll put a poster out, right? So I thought to myself, what could I do? And this is where the third act comes. This is really how we arrive at today, which is I thought about what have I learned? And I realized I really liked having more agency, more control over what I built. I was okay with more risk, not working for, multi-billion-dollar conglomerate where I was just a tiny cog pushing things down the assembly line, right? And I thought, well, the thing I do know how to do is I do understand engineering. And maybe I don't write the common languages now, but I understand the structure of engineering. My brain kind of understands that. So, I can find some, smart people. So I went and failed twice, which was a really interesting experience.
Yeah.
I'd raised like $15 million for my first company, and we sold it for like 90. So it was like a 6x multiple in like 3 years, 4 years, and everyone was happy. I raised only $3 million for each of the next two companies, lost all of it. Just did not find lightning strikes, didn't invent cold fusion. And I was like so ashamed and so embarrassed. And I was like, oh, wow. And at the end of both of those two companies, which each took about two-ish years, I thought, while it's still fresh in my mind, let me at least write down, what did I learn?
Yes.
while the wounds are still bleeding. Like, let's examine them and be like, what's up? And I always do it the same way. I sat in this one chair in my place, took a pad of paper, like old school, like my hand is going to write this, not going to be like jotted, dictated to a
Yeah.
phone or something, right?
Yeah.
And a pencil, and I wrote out, what did I learn? Where did I fuck up, right?
Hmm.
I have those 2 sheets of paper. I refer back to them because I really think that we're drawn to make the same mistakes unless you are super conscious about, I
Exactly.
know I always want to pull left when I'm driving. I have to, stay in my lane. And it's one of
Correct.
those things of like, okay, you have to remember these things. And one of the things that really stood out for me was I loved remote work. I loved the fact that with these small companies, which had never been true in my career before, I could hire talent globally. Oh my God, there's an amazing designer in Dubai. I should hire her. Oh, there's this engineer who really loves what we do in Montreal. Let's work with him, right? That was amazing. The no commute time is amazing. Like, so much stuff was amazing, but there were some real challenges with balancing remote, hybrid work. And as you know, now in the world, there's this big tug of war of like, everyone must be in the office all the time versus,
I
is
know.
that really true? You know?
Yeah, I know.
So that led me in the last, 6 years to really say, how could I study from the really smart people? Because there have been a lot of smart people, and it is the true that standing on the shoulders of giants, you see further, right? So you read those books, you see the common elements in them, you see how they apply to this, and I thought, you know what? A lot of these, hundreds of pages boiled down to maybe 5, 6 things that are inarguably true. And you could put them into a really simple website that simply helped you be healthier, get your work done earlier, be happier. And Suka is that name for happiness. It's a
I
self-fulfilled
see.
happiness. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to name my company that does this the Focus Mate Productivity Tip App 14. You know what I mean? I was like,
Conglomerate.
right. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I'm going to name it the Happiness Company. And that's also what we
Yes.
do. We'll give you tools to be productive, but our goal is not for you to be productive. Our goal is for you to feel like this feels great. I feel really
Wow.
good. And maybe I'm done earlier in the day and, have time to screw around. So
Amazing. I
that is
mean,
my path that brings me
this
to
is
you.
crazy. I mean, now that I think about it, I'm just like, oh my word, there's so much synergy in of course, I haven't run any film. I mean, I'm a hardcore engineer through and through. And I've been very privileged, to be honest, to be
Yep.
in the aerospace field for over 17 years now. So it's
Maybe your son will be too. I don't know. He's
I
talking
don't
about,
know.
Bernoulli
I mean,
maturity to you.
exactly. Next thing you know, I'll have to explain Bernoulli's principle to him. Next month.
Pretty great.
But
Explain it to me too.
so no, but I mean, it's just amazing. I think I have so many questions, but I think let's start with this one because what you just mentioned, kind of at the later part of your conclusion, is how you've kind of had these moments of just realization and self-awareness that I think I've got to do me
Yep.
instead of just kind of following the next big hit or the next big thing. And I guess the question is really around, I would say, is your understanding. Because I mean, there had to be some level of understanding of this is now my reality, and I'm curious to find what is now your understanding of time and focus when it just comes to now your transition from kind of blockbuster in your face to now just, hey man, I want to just make you happy.
You know, it's so interesting. No one has asked me that question that way. And you, as I was listening to thinking, where is he going with this? The thing that popped in my head was actually a thought, maybe an analogy that I have not expressed before, which is this. In spending 6 years intensely looking at how could we work better, happier, faster often because you want more time for other things, there is something that people do that they fool themselves because it's almost an abstract notion. Time is somewhat abstract. Like you can say, oh, we're low on flour. I need to go buy a pound of white, bleached flour, whatever it is, at the market, right? But time is invisible, right? It slides by. It's much harder to say. So when your car is low on gas, you're like, I have to go buy another 8 gallons or 30 liters, whatever, of gas. And the people that I've noticed are very happy. And this is such a simple thing to do, but it requires you to actually practice it for a few days until it becomes natural. Is there is a concept, a very common principle about time and how you time box tasks. Because it is weird. I didn't believe it until I tried it. When you actually say to yourself, you write down, you know what, this should take me 45 minutes to fix this bug and push the PR, whatever it is, right? It's amazing the way you will get it done in 44 minutes. But when it's like, oh, I need to do that, yeah, I need to fix the bug, it takes an hour and 10. And there are all those little things that sort of like don't push you toward that. And I've spoken to people now that I've been doing this for a few years and created a whole platform around how to do it. I've spoken to a number of people who are like, oh, I'm just not good with time boxing. But okay, well, tell me like how you work. Well, I have to be honest. I'm kind of a procrastinator. Like I wait until the last minute and then it's due and I have to do it. I did it in college. I do it now. And this is what I say to them. And this is where the light usually goes off in their head. I was like, well, okay, so you don't time box, right? It doesn't work. If I were to tell you that deadline was the end of the time box and you simply by procrastinating determined how big the box was. So if you're going to do that entire thing from 9 to 10 a.m. before you have the 10 a.m. meeting with your, engineering manager, whatever, you time boxed it. You didn't call it that, but you're like, shit, I have 60 minutes to get this done. So in effect, you're time boxing, but you're not acknowledging you're doing it. Now, if you successfully delivered that bug fix in 60 minutes, but it was right before you had the meeting, your stand-up or whatever, right? Imagine you took the 60 minutes and did it the same time the day before, and you just called it time boxing, and then there was no anxiety or stress around it.
Yeah.
And I was like, can you think about time boxing that way? Just telling yourself you have this little deadline, you're going to get it done in this amount of time, and just put it in your calendar in such a way that makes you happier. And that strangely has helped a number of people who are like, I never thought about it. I have been time boxing my whole life, just with a lot of stress.
Exactly. I think that is so key, right? Because I think a lot of professionals, especially in tech, don't realize that they do have the tools and they actually have the mental capacity. They're just misusing it and they're completely misusing it. And to the point where you actually think the activity is the reason why you're stressed, but actual fact is your misuse of your tools that you have.
It is so easy. And I'll tell you this, there are a lot of training programs. I'm going to go hire a trainer. We're going to train for the marathon. We're going to go lift dead weights. We're going to, do whatever. Right? Mm-hmm. And they're very rigid, very disciplined. You have to really buy in hard. And I'll tell you this, I'm sitting here today with you because I'm a procrastinator, right? Yeah. I get easily distracted. I've been diagnosed with ADHD. I procrastinate. And there are a couple of problems that I had where I was like, ooh, I really need to solve this. There was like, I'll tell you, a cold start problem. Like in the morning, I would say, oh, I'm going to start work at 8:30, 9:30, whatever it was in this morning. I'd look at my task list, and often I would find, I could go throw in that load of laundry real quick before I start. Oh, I didn't do the dishes from last night. Oh, let me scroll for a moment. Let me just check my email, like that thing, right? And when I dug down on that, is a lot of that was a sense of overwhelm. It was like, oh my God, my task list is so long. I'm never going to accomplish all that. I don't know where to begin, right? Mm-hmm. Or it was the first task was something ridiculously large, like, create the app. And you're like, I'm not going to write the entire application today. So you know what I did? And this sounds ridiculous. Was I built a little smart assistant who's truly an assistant to me.
Nice.
And looks at my task list and says, hey, you know what, Stephen? I'm only going to let you choose 3 things. Let's choose those 3. Okay, cool. We choose 1, 2, or 3 things to start. And it's super friendly. It's like, oh, by the way, the first thing on the list, write your book. Like, you're probably not going to write your book today in 2 hours. What if we were to say, outline the first chapter? Could we do that in 30 minutes? And then something that felt achievable to me, like, you remember yesterday when I was driving, I had that idea for the opening anecdote. I could totally bang out an outline in 30 minutes. And then suddenly I'm into my day. And it was just that simple thing of having a little smart assistant, a little chat bot that was just like, let me organize your task list and get you going. Let's find some easy stuff to do. Yeah. And it changed my mornings, which then, of course, changes your afternoons because you're not procrastinating all day.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, I think yeah, I don't know. You will find, I mean, of course, we spoke off air that, you'll soon be a father and congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
I find that there is a distinct difference with all the engineers that I've worked with. those who are active parents as opposed to those who don't have kids. And the reason I say active is because active is a very important part of my point.
Yes.
Is you being active meaning that you have to be conscious about the time you spend with your child, right? All of a sudden, whether you like it or not, you have to be super self-aware about the fact that I will be spending 2-3 hours sometimes every single day after work for my child.
Can I
So
tell you a
your
story?
day completely changes. Completely. Yeah,
Can I
go
tell you a
for it.
story?
Yeah.
Okay. This is why my company is named the Suka Company, the Happiness Company. So Laura and I, got married a couple of years ago, and I mentioned we do yoga together and all that. That's very much just how we met. And so our honeymoon, we wanted to go to Bali. Very grateful that our lives are such we could go to Bali for 10 days, do yoga, and chill out, right? During that period of time, I knew no one would bug me because it's the one time no one's asking me to prove, like, we need to buy 2 staplers or, should we? No one would bug me. It was so great.
Nice.
So we're flying over there. I was talking to Laura. I was like, you know what? This is maybe a great gift from the universe because I've been trying to find a name for this thing that we're building. And we have a bunch of power members that use it. And maybe like my unconscious mind will bubble up something interesting while we're here doing yoga. Da, da, da. I said, do you mind if on the first day, I actually do a couple short, maybe 10-minute Zooms with some of our power members and ask them what they like about what we do. And maybe over 10 days, whatever they say, will formulate something interesting and I'll have that great name by the end of it. And she's like, totally cool. I'm going to the pool. You enjoy your Zooms, right? So I'm in the room and I spoke to a couple of our members. And the third Zoom, he's still a member, the guy that I'm going to mention. We talked for like 8 minutes. And I asked the stupid questions. Oh, Paulin, like, what feature do you like? Do you like the music? We have 1,000 hours of focus music. Oh, do you like the smart assistant that helps you get going? So we had about 8 minutes, and I promised I'm going to ask you for 10 minutes of your time. That's all I need, right? So at the end of 8 minutes, I go into the wrap up. I really appreciate your time. Thank you. This is helpful. I'll be meditating on this the next week and a half, right? So he says to me, Stephen, you didn't ask me the right question. I was like, really? Okay, what is the right question? He said, you should ask me why I pay you. And I was like, okay, probably a little more forward than I would normally be. I think I'm a little more diplomatic.
Well,
why do you pay me? And he said, at 3:00, I can be playing with my kids, or at 6:00, I can say, where the hell did the day go? He said, the difference is, did I start the day with the Suka? He said, my kids are 2 and 4, and now I think they're 4 and 6, whatever. He said, my kids are 2 and 4, and I really want to see this moment in their life. I know it's going to pass so quickly. And he said, that's why I pay you, to be in my kids' lives. And I was talking to Laura at dinner. I was like, oh my God, I spoke to this guy today. He said the coolest thing. Da, da, da. It was better than anything I've ever said about why I want to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And Laura's like, that's super cool, super cool. And we're going to bed, and she's like brushing her teeth. And she comes to bed, and she says, you know what? I was thinking about what you said at dinner. And she said, I think what he expressed to you is the reason you're doing this is that you want people to be happy. And she's like, you and I know in yoga, there's that concept, that Sanskrit word, Suka, about the happiness you feel when you're in your lane doing the thing you're meant to do. You're good at it. It feels great. She's like, I think that's more what you're aiming for. Everything you're designing it's just the pathway that people walk on to get to happiness. It's not the goal. And that's when I was like, great, we're going to call it the Happiness Company, the Suka Company, done. Checked if the URL was available. Boom, the Suka.co, spot.
amazing. I mean, that is such a, I mean, wow, it's so surreal because I think maybe about, I mean, MoloMolo, of course, started off as a podcast, and now we are essentially an engineering consultancy with, integrating technical coaching. But the whole idea was, man, I'm tired of just compromising the very thing that I know makes me happy. Like I'm tired. I'm done.
Yes.
And I want to experience and work towards a life for which I am just accepting the calling that I have in my core, which is just to just give a chance for people to do or to feel the way I feel about wanting to just be
Right?
within my element. And that's what you said is just amazing just to hear that. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if you've spoke. I haven't listened to every one of your episodes. I don't know that I've heard this. Have you talked about flow states?
No.
Okay, let's talk about that for a moment because I think it's a
Okay.
really core concept. And our membership, I can tell you this: the three biggest cohorts in our membership are developers, engineers, designers, and writers. And what I learned about that was that we attract people who are usually college educated, who have knowledge work to do, and they recognize I can finish this at 3 o'clock and feel energized, or I can finish it at 6 and be like, well, whatever I didn't get done, I'll get up early tomorrow and I'll get a jump on it and didn't quite get, that feeling, right? And that's the thing I hate is that like end of the day, like, oh, I'll get up early tomorrow and try and finish the stuff that I didn't, right? So I was on a flight where the Wi-Fi was broken. Thank you, American Airlines, right?
Quack, quack.
Right? I'm just saying. And I had some simple designs to mock up. And I looked up and we were landing. And I was like, we just took off. No, we'd been in the air for like 2 hours and 40 minutes. And I'd finished my designs, but there was no incoming Slack message. There was no Bing. There was no email to check. There was nothing. And in researching, like, what was that feeling of just like, wow, hold on, I got a ton of stuff done. I didn't get up and go to the bathroom. I don't remember the meal service. I don't remember anything. But I looked down and I was like, oh, when we get on the ground, I'm going to hook up my hotspot on my phone and just send these, to one of my engineers. Like, this is great. And there's the seminal book on this is called Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. I practiced how to say that name for years. So there you go. Hungarian name. Can't tell you I can spell it when I'm drunk, but I'll tell you this. That's how you pronounce it, right?
Yeah.
So he studied this and he said, you know what? High performers in a variety of fields have these hyper concentrated states where they do great work. And there are famous people who have had these quotes. So you probably heard, the thing of when Michael Jordan talked about being in the zone, and he's like, it's just me and the ball. Like, I get to a place where there are no defenders, there's no scoreboard, there's no one in the stands. It's just me and the ball, right? And the other famous quote I love is the Picasso one where he's like, I was up all night and I didn't go to the bathroom and I forgot to drink water or eat really. But hey, Guernica, do you want to see what I painted? That sort of thing. And it's like you just get in that state where you're like, oh my God, 12 hours went by. I'm not counseling people to work for 12 hours, right?
Yes.
And Mihai wrote this book around this saying like, there are a lot of similarities in how these people do this. And he called it flow because he said at a certain point, it is not, you sort of tap into this universal energy or movement that is like being on a river where it's not just you walking through the forest, but you kind of are paddling, but the ocean, the river is actually carrying you forward, right? So this is where flow comes from, flow states like that. And ultimately the core of what I do is give people the tools that he talked about how to get into a flow state. And the end result, I pray for many people, is the thing that one guy said to me a couple years ago, which is at 3 o'clock, I feel great and I'm with my kids. As opposed to 6 o'clock, I'm like, oh man, I'll do it tomorrow, right? And it comes from some simple practices. And I'd love to share these with your audience in case they're helpful. Even if they don't need to use, there's some great apps out there. Like, it's not like I have the only app that does this. There's some fantastic applications out there. But music has been found to be super helpful. And there is definitely research that points to be in a flow state, it seems like 60 to 90 beats per minute, certain key signatures, non-vocal rhythmic music really helps. Sometimes binaural beats, like you have headphones on where you can hear like, a 40 hertz delta between your ears. There's some very passionate advocates for binaural beats. I personally have tried them. They don't seem to do it for me, but we provide binaural beat playlists in our platform because some people swear by them, right? So it's great. If it works for you, awesome. But music is one. Yes, there are always outliers like, oh yeah, my brother listens to like heavy metal while he codes or, mumble rap or something. It's like, okay, God bless if that's your jam. Don't want to stop you. Like,
do
enjoy
you,
it.
man?
Yeah, but I have a lot of friends who are film composers who have time on their hands. I've written 1,000+ hours of beautiful flow music. So that's one part of it. Another part of it, and this is interesting, is Mihai wrote, The thing you need to do, you need to believe is meaningful. So it's very hard to get into a flow state if you're talking about, like, I don't know, raking the leaves or, doing something that's just like, oh God, I gotta do this thing, running to this grocery store. You're not gonna be in a flow state, right?
Yeah.
You have to believe somehow, yeah, this is gonna be cool. Like, man, when we release this to our members, they're gonna be delighted. Oh, I can't wait to work on this thing, right?
Yeah.
Another aspect of this, and I'm gonna wrap up in a moment and go back to you, but another aspect is, he said, you have to have skills that apply. So it is not Picasso throwing a basketball. It's not Michael Jordan painting, unless Michael Jordan is a great painter, which I don't know. But it is something where it's in your lane. Like, you're doing the thing you're meant to do, and you're good at it. And another thing is, it has to challenge you. It can't be the most obvious thing you've done 1,000 times before and you're bored out of your mind. It has to be something where you're actually, it's like your muscles are pushed to move forward and to work.
Yeah.
So those are some of the concepts that we, wanted to incorporate, as well as some of the stuff that Cal Newport writes about. He's written brilliant stuff, on deep work, how to time box, how to monotask, not jump around between tasks and things like that. So those, I think, are really some of the ways to say, you know what, I'd like to be done at 3. I'd like to be delighted during my workday. I'd like to, whatever that thing is. Maybe you windsurf. Maybe you don't have kids yet. I don't have kids yet, but I will in a few months, right? But whatever that time is, however you want to use that time. So
Yeah, no,
back to you.
I mean, no, it's awesome. I mean, I think thanks for kind of giving kind of a breakdown on flow states. That really helps a lot, because I think it kind of ties to my next question regarding how did you strike the balance, or at least how do you try and achieve balance with a company that really tries to bring that core need for being fulfilled and for being satisfied with one's output through the help of the different things that you guys provide, and yet at the back end of that is maintaining a team culture within your company that still produces high performing applications and tools. How do you manage to kind of break or find that balance?
Okay, so if it's cool with you, I'm going to drop a couple of Hollywood stories.
Go
And
for it.
I don't want to sound like I'm Mr. Hollywood guy. Like, I'm out of Hollywood. I did it. It was super
Yeah.
fun. But I'll
Yeah.
tell you this, a very important experience that I had, and something I took advantage of, was I noticed that there was something about being with other people who were trying to do the same thing or do something great. And I'll give you a specific example. I was very lucky, as I mentioned, to work with some of the top writers in Hollywood, guys and girls who are making $1 to $2 million a script, right?
Wow.
For a dialogue polish, they're making $350,000 a week. It's like, these are really, really talented people. Here's what's interesting. They all have their own writing habits, but many of them go to coffee shops. They go to friends' houses. They write together. And I lived in West Hollywood, very close to this famous coffee bean that's on Sunset Boulevard and half a block west of Fairfax, right across from the Directors Guild. It is a nondescript coffee bean. It's not special in any other way, other than a lot of writers go there. And when you walk in that room, it is not like a social hour of people dropping by other people's tables. Oh, Pauline, what are you working on? It is not that. It is rather, you walk in there, everyone is on their little MacBooks, and they're writing away. And in the corner, there's that guy who's been doing this for 20 years. He's got 3 studio movies in release right now. He's, writing the next Avengers. And on the other side of you, there are 2 girls who just got off the bus from Iowa, and they're writing their next, funny female version of, 2 guys and a baby, whatever it is, right? Or 3 men and a baby, whatever that was.
Yes.
So that experience of being in there was really interesting to me, because I am not a writer. But I would go there on weekends because I had a lot of scripts to read. As an executive, it's incoming material. Everyone's calling you going, hey, read my client's script, right? So you go home with 20 plus scripts a weekend. So I would go there to read, because there was an energy in that room of people who are all trying to create the next great TV series, feature film, whatever that was. And that coffee shop inspired me. So let me bring this home to your question. One of the things that we built in the Suka company is a coffee shop, which sounds kind of nuts, right? It's a website. It's a website. It's like 30 cents a day. It's like super easy to use, right? What I wanted to do was say, you know what? for the people who do get that sense of, I want to be part of a community, people are all doing something. We give you the opportunity to see other people who are working, see where they're working. You can peep them, be like, oh, Paulin's listening to this playlist in Spotify, and he's in this place, and Steven's in Austin, Texas doing that. You can turn on your camera if you want to be seen. There are little avatars. It takes like a photo a few times a minute. So it's not like live video, but it's just like in a coffee shop where you work for 20 minutes. You gotta sit back, you look around, you're like, oh yeah, okay, the old guy's still here, and those, two girls are snoring, and you go down and you look at it. So like, I think it's like 6 times a minute, we just take a snapshot so you can see other people and it feels warm. And when we had this in beta and it was super buggy, I was talking to, again, one of our members, because I love talking to members. Everything smart that I've done has been from talking to someone who is part of our community, right? So it's like, is this a stupid idea? This is all modeled on like a real world coffee shop experience. And I don't know. Is it worth the engineering time? I know it's buggy. We had it. And she said this to me. She said, I can go down to the Nike store on Santa Monica Boulevard. I can buy a pair of Nikes. They will sell me a pair of running shoes. They'll sell me a left shoe, a right shoe. I can put them on my feet and go run. But there's a reason why 100 million people belong to the Nike Run Club. Because when you run together, you run farther, you run faster, you're more accountable. The days that you're dragging and you're like, I don't know if I should get out of bed. Your friend Paul is like, come on, man, let's do this. Come on. And I got you, right? And the day your friend needs support, you're there for her or him. She's like, that's why I love coming here and turning my camera, because I get to know everyone in this community. It's around the world. And the days I'm dragging, I turn it on, I smile, I see some people I know. We're in the group chat. We're like, hey, good luck with your, tickets today. Or, hey, I wrote a new blog. People will say, I wrote my new blog post, and they'll put a link to it in the group chat, and people go visit it. And it's just like, it feels like a community of people. It feels like that coffee shop across from the Directors Guild where everyone was trying to do something cool. And that I've seen work for teams. We have private groups where engineering managers have set up, hey, I have 20 developers across Europe. This would be a fun way for us to feel like we're a team, because otherwise we're just a bunch of guys sitting in our boxer shorts around Europe, in Slack every now and then posting a meme,
Wow. No, that's amazing. I mean, I think just that the concept of it is, I've never heard of it, but yet I can totally associate with just bringing that essentially connection, right?
It's pretty
connection.
Fun. We're humans, exactly. We're humans. Ultimately, let's figure out how to be happy. Part of our life is work. We can do it in a way that we hate it, or we can do it in such a way we go, that was awesome, and now I want to do it something else in my afternoon.
And I think, the one thing that I'm hearing from it is that having a platform that essentially allows you to be a bit more connected and aware also allows you not to be fixated with having to only be connected with when I actually have a friendship. So you now can be kind of, in a way, amongst the crowd and feel that it's okay, like, because everybody else is doing it, and which is a completely different dynamic from a workplace.
Tell you another story. That was such a fantastic entree, and I'm just going to jump in. I'm going to tell you something.
Yes.
Possibly the thing I am most proud of, okay? There is a guy that I see in our coffee shop. He works with his camera on, little, avatar this big, right? And I see him. Nice looking black guy. He's a vice principal in Missouri, in the middle of America, right? And I see him there usually in the evenings, his time, or on weekends. In the group chat, at one point, maybe a year ago, he said, hey guys, I'm a vice principal. Blah, blah, blah. I'm working on my doctorate in engineering. It's like his side hustle, right? Vice principal by day, enforcing the rules.
Batman by night.
Exactly, pretty much, exactly. And coding by night, right? So he was in there. And you can, if you're proud of what you do, and again, this is something I wanted to create in the community, is once a day, you can post something you finished, and it'll say, oh, like Steven finished his blog post in an hour and 12 minutes, and you can post it in there, and people can, drop little emojis on it, or you can say, like, here's a link to it, right? So it's kind of fun. You can't spam, you can't post multiple things a day, but you can choose one thing. Today, here's the most important thing I did. I want to share it, right? Okay. So you could tell from the things he posted They were all things about his side hustle. They were not like I graded papers or, I mean, he's a vice principal, so he doesn't grade papers, but they weren't administrative stuff for the school. It was, I'm trying to prepare for the next era of my life. I'm going to go be an engineer. So in the group chat, his most important task that he posted one day a few months ago was turned in his dissertation, right? And a bunch of people were like, "Oh, Roy, wow, dude, you're done." He's like, "Yeah, I self-defended in a couple weeks, but I'm gonna go do this on Monday, 2 weeks, or whatever it was, the date,
Yeah.
right?" So that Monday was a week ago Monday. Over that weekend, and I can tell you, none of these people actually know him because I run the platform. I know they're scattered all over the world. Over that weekend, people are like, "Roy, we're thinking of you Monday, man. Good luck Monday. Da-da. You got this, buddy, blah, blah." And there are people who had just seen each other in there over the past couple of years and just knew each other from this. None of them were related to him. So Monday, he's totally quiet. We don't hear anything. And we're like, how's it going? And when he logged on Tuesday morning, he said, "You can now call me Dr. King." The group chat went nuts. It was like
Amazing.
absolutely amazing experience seeing someone do that, just like you've been running with someone for a year training. And the moment you're there and you cross like the finish line at the marathon together, like you just want to hold each other and cry. It was a beautiful moment. And Roy was great. He's like, this feels like my work home now. This is where my people are. And it was a beautiful thing. And he said, "You can call me Dr. King." I was like, "This is awesome."
Mic drop. Wow.
Yeah, it's just great. He's just the nicest guy. So anyway, that I think the human nature of what we do, even if you are, let's say, the most abstract engineer, I'm coming up with back end functions that will never be exposed to any customer of our company, but you're still human.
Yeah.
And there's something about like, it's fun doing it around people who are also trying to do something great.
Amazing. Now this is, man, you are dropping nuggets here,
It's
Stephen.
super fun, you know?
Yeah, it's
I'm very
really
grateful for what I get to do.
Come on, man. Really, I'm getting really inspired by everything you're saying, and I'm actually taking notes in terms of okay, especially this coffee shop idea, like virtual coffee shop.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. And I guess it brings me to kind of the next question, which is around managing chaos and burnout. And I guess I would like to hear your opinion on what's your definition of burnout, first of all, and more importantly, how have you managed to either recover from it or fight it off, or kind of what type of mental strength exercises do you need to have in your repertoire to be able to fight something like burnout?
Okay, let's be super honest here. I have burned out at times, and I have had to, like you said, try to stave off burnout again. So this is not something where it's like I am the perfect model of this. What I am is a guy who has struggled with distraction, struggled with procrastination, struggled with burnout. And that, as the old expression goes about, necessity is the mother of invention. If I've been passionate about understanding this the past 5-10 years, it is because I have suffered from this. So I can tell you, what I've read from all the smart people who've written about this, and I can tell you about my personal experience. But I'm not going to tell you this is the gospel according to Stephen, okay? I just want to help. So it is true there's an aspect of burnout that is easy to calculate. You have spent too many hours doing this thing. Like you are not sleeping enough, you're not eating properly, right? So there is one aspect that simply you can measure and go, dude, you can't work 18 hours a day, 6 days a week and survive. There's that, inarguable, right? There's also an emotional aspect of you feel certain anxiety and stress around what you do. So maybe you're only working 5 hours a day, but the amount of stress on you is such that it wears you out, right?
Yeah.
And then you touched upon this, what you said about there is a physical aspect of like, yes, we can have a spiritual life of, am I stressed? We can have, the measurable thing of like, I'm working too many hours, I'm not doing other things. And then there's the physical aspect of, I am not sleeping enough. I'm not drinking enough water. I'm not even stretching my legs. Like I'm sitting here at the laptop for too many hours in a row, like that sort of thing. So there are some of those, like when we were designing Suka, there's some of those where like, okay, we can help with that. There are others where it's like, we can point you to things that will help, but that's not exactly what we can do. So a good example, spend a bunch of time learning about different productivity timing techniques. So have you heard about the Pomodoro technique, or maybe some of
Yes.
your
Yep.
listeners? Okay, just to be clear,
But
so
you can
everyone
explain
listening.
it. Go for it. Yep.
Yeah. So Italian guy, a kitchen timer, look like a tomato. Pomodoro means
Correct.
tomato. And he came up with this system that, to be very reductive, is, hey, why don't you work for 25 minutes, take a break for 5. Work for 25, take a break for 5, and then eventually do a longer break after an hour or two, a couple hours. So what he was saying in his own way was, how can I give you something that's so simple, it doesn't seem intimidating, but it doesn't force this idea of like, you are not actually going to do right things by just sitting there for 6 hours and your legs go to sleep and you get fat and your heart develops heart disease. You know what I mean? Like, this is not the
Yeah.
path to
Yeah.
great success, right? And there's definitely a culture, a lot out of Silicon Valley, where it's like, you must destroy yourself, live here, sleep under the desk, it's celebrated. If that is what you want, go for it. I'm not your mom. I'm not your dad. I checked. I'm neither. It's just like, if that is seriously your idea.
I got your birth certificate.
Right. Exactly. We did take some DNA from your hair.
Luke, where is your father?
I know, exactly. Luke, I am your mother. What? Which movie
Wait
is this?
a minute.
Exactly right. This is a new movie. I mean, interesting twist. So there is an aspect of, if that is how you feel successful, you know what? You're going to pursue that. You're going to unconsciously gravitate towards it. God bless. If you ever need a healthier path, we're here for you, but that's
Yeah.
the way you want to go. Now, going back to the timing thing. Yes, I'm guilty of this. Sometimes I will sit here and be like, it's like lunch. I haven't even had a glass of water. I didn't stand up. Ooh. So, for example, we built this in, again, building on great principles. You can set your own Pomodoro timer. It defaults when you come to our platform, 25 and 5. So every 5 minutes, every 25 minutes, it reminds you, take the next 5 minutes. And there's, cute little menu that comes up. You actually get points if you go drink some water. We give you a productivity score for every session, so you can see, are you getting better over time? As you measure yourself, is this something where you're learning? And you get points for going for a walk. And it's, the honor system. We don't watch you,
Yes.
They're like, I just
Yes.
went for a 5-minute walk. I just walked around the block. Blah, blah, blah. You know what? It's so simple, but it helps. Or we have little stretching videos if you want to watch someone stretch at your desk, and do that. Or if you want to just breathe and meditate. Like, again, coming from a yoga background, a lot of that spirituality, that mindfulness around physicality is important to me and Laura, my wife. So I was like, you know what? Why don't we offer a short breathing video where, if you're not going to get up, you're just like, you know what? For a minute or 5 minutes, I can just sit here and box breathe or something, right? So that's one way in which you can help with burnout, is just be respectful of, yes, we live inside a container, take care of the container, right?
Yeah.
In terms of stress with your boss, it's beyond our ability to really help you with that, other than we help you deliver, right? And that's something where, and I think you've been through a number of different job situations. Like, you get the sense of, like, there's some places that are toxic and there's some places that are delicious, right?
Ripe.
Yeah, just saying. And then, the idea of how many hours you work, it is a question of expectation. Do you expect that you're going to do this amount of work in 8 hours or 10 hours, or do you expect you to do it in 6? And some of that is time boxing, saying, I expect that I can do these 4 tickets before lunch. Let's assign them each 45 minutes or what is appropriate, and do it. And you expect that of yourself. And suddenly you find less of your time going to, oh, that's right. And then I stopped and checked my emails. Oh, and then I read my Slack. And then there was that really funny, Slack GIF that was going around, and I posted my own Slack GIF, and it was like, oh, it's cute. But you know what? That little 5-minute interchange, which led to then clicking on your friend's YouTube link, you just lost 20 minutes. So that means you're going to be here until 6.
Yeah.
Is that what you want? And those are decisions you make for yourself. So anyway.
No, that's very good points. I mean, if I could add, I think one of the things that, I mean, what we focus on MoloMolo is technical coaching, but specifically technical communication. And one of the things that I find very very hard to understand often, and I'm an engineer, and I, like I said, and I've been that for pretty much my whole career, is the inability of an engineer that is so smart yet ask the most technical can ask the most technical questions, but oftentimes forgets to ask the very questions that will prevent him from being stressed in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's basically what you're saying. Saying, hey, how can I mean, essentially that's the Pomodoro technique. It's like you basically taking conscious fact that before I start, let me ask the question on how can I make sure that I don't get stressed.
And you speak to a deeper thing, which is the point in your life when you decide to take responsibility for yourself, things change.
Yep. Yeah. That's a very good point, because it's essentially by you not asking those questions, you are still in a mode of thinking that someone else will tell you when you shouldn't and shouldn't do certain things that will make you stressed. And essentially that is a false perception of reality. Nobody can do that for you. You have to start being that person.
Yes. So this is a joke I have with my wife. It's not a joke. She tells me about her work environment and things. She's in banking. She has a whole different set of like stresses, and I have my stuff, right? But the thing I always say to her is like, you're starring in a movie called You. Everyone is a supporting player in your movie, but you. And you have to remember that person you're talking about right now that you're frustrated with, they're starring in a movie called Them. You are a supporting player in their movie. You need to understand when you're in their movie how you contribute to that, and you need to take responsibility for the movie called You. And that's one of the fun things we talk about, where sometimes, I'll catch myself doing it. Where it's like, okay, I have to remember that right now I am a supporting player who is doing a podcast for you and your audience. And what is my intention? What is my goal here? Oh, it's to bring knowledge that I've worked really hard to learn and say, here's what I learned. By the way, I built this thing. If you like this thing, here's some books to read if you want to read more. Here's some blog posts if you want to, what can I share with you? Because I know the road ahead of me is shorter than the road behind me, right? So this is a great opportunity to be here. Let me lay it out, man, and a lot of generous people have come before me, and that's how I learned.
Yeah, no, I think the whole thing about, you starring in the movie is so poignant, because it really does give you, especially if you love movies, it does give you the sense that you are responsible for whether...
What's your favorite movie?
Oh, man. Okay, we're getting into things now. So I've got a couple, but my most the one that I gravitate to the most for many reasons is The Godfather.
Oh, wow.
So that's my bread and butter.
Epic movie. That is so, like, the texture of that movie, you feel like you could walk into that movie.
Yeah. So I'm that is I mean, as soon as I hear that, I'm like, Don Corleone.
Right. Okay.
Like,
fantastic references. That is an amazing, amazing movie. What else is on the list? I know this is off topic, but I'm super curious.
Yeah, no, but and then the next one has to be Lord of the Rings.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm definitely into kind of cinematic, just, you can see the effort in making this. And then there's
epic. You go after epic stuff, like big
exactly.
canvases.
And then Shawshank Redemption is another
it's an amazing
one.
movie.
So yeah, I'm definitely like into, like, it's gotta make sense, and it's gotta be multi-layered. Like it cannot just be an obvious script. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love those. Like, I don't know, Men in Black, or like, I'll just watch it and be like, okay, cool, that's fine. Shooting aliens and just they have green blood and funny punchlines. But the ones I gravitate the most is, again, speaks to the very core of what I need to fuel, right, internally, like the struggle, the notion that it takes time to build something. It takes effort, it takes friendship, it takes partnership.
It demands a lot of those heroes that in your movies. I agree.
Exactly.
It'd be really funny if now I, as the movie guy, was like, my favorite movie is Step Brothers.
Well, Hey, man.
It's
Oh yeah. So yeah. So, and yours? I mean, you in the film industry, so I'm very curious. I mean, you were. So
I've been lucky to see a lot of films, good and bad, and I'm going to cite a movie that in case anyone listening wants to go rewatch this movie because it's
okay.
30, 40 years old.
Yeah.
But there is something about it that I'm going to highlight here that is so extraordinary and it points to how great this is. It is
Mm-hmm.
almost like saying, imagine you looked at every boat on earth and there was one boat that was made of paper and somehow it sailed beautifully and no one ever noticed it was made of paper. Every other boat was like wood and steel and aluminum and
Mm-hmm.
titanium, and there's one boat made of paper and you're like, how did they do it? You know how? Because they were amazing craftsmen.
Hmm.
And this is what it is. It is an action movie, an action adventure called Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was early Harrison Ford in a
Yes.
movie,
Correct.
right?
I've heard of
And
it. Never watched
I,
it. I don't think I've ever watched it.
if you ever watch it,
No.
I'm going to mention two things about it
Yeah.
that when you realize these two things, which absolutely bend the movie into this origami pretzel,
Mm-hmm.
you realize how good the writing is. And this is something where, Lucas and Spielberg were like, oh, we grew up going to the movies and, on Saturdays that have those little action serials, like 6, 10 minute little, like almost like trailers. Every
Yes.
week you'd get the next installment sort of thing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they made this as an homage to those like fun popcorn, you're 12 years old going to the movies on the weekends sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
So the movie is nominally about Harrison Ford as this guy named Indiana Jones. And he's kind of a, archaeologist, Tomb Raider going and stealing stuff from, archaeological sites, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the movie, it's the beginning of World War II, and Hitler has decided because he's superstitious, he needs to have the Ark of the Covenant because apparently the army that
Correct.
carries the Ark of the
Yes.
Covenant cannot be
Yes.
defeated, right? So this is his ticket to I'm going to conquer the world. So it is simply a movie about he wants the Ark, the world will become, Nazi Germany,
Mm-hmm.
or he doesn't get the Ark and we win, right? Now, sounds like typical action adventure movie, whatever. Oh, we all need to get the chalice of the thing and the
Yes.
orb of the whatever and the, the
Yeah.
thing, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Here is what is so interesting about that movie. When it came out, and for years later, writers quote it when they're like, oh, it's sort of like this scene from the Indiana Jones. It is a beloved movie in Hollywood, extremely well respected. I'm going to ask you this question, Paulin. In every action movie, whether it's Bond, whether it's one of the old Schwarzenegger Stallone movies or more current movie today, Avengers, right? In the third act, the heroes do all sorts of amazing things. They kick and jump and shoot and fire the laser weapon and defuse the bomb, right? Exactly, right? This is the genre, the trope, right?
Correct.
Okay. Here are the two things. If you watch this movie, I want you to watch for, and I challenge you to find any other action movie you have ever seen in your life that pulls this off invisibly, like a magic trick. You will not find it. At the end of the movie, ask yourself, because it's a very satisfying, fun movie. It spawned 5 sequels and the whole thing. At the end of the movie, ask yourself, if Indiana Jones had never been born, would the movie end any differently? And the answer is no. How did they It's like saying, oh, let's make the first Die Hard movie, but in the end, Bruce does not kill Alan Rickman and carry his wife out of the burning building. What Bruce did had absolutely no effect on the plot. It would have ended the exact same way if Bruce had not even gone to Los Angeles. If he just stayed in New York, was like having Doritos at home, right?
Yes. Yes.
And the reason you don't realize that as the audience, the reason you feel incredibly satisfied, like that was a fantastic movie, it made hundreds of millions of dollars and spawned, the reason is the character writing is so amazing. You love being with the character. You don't even realize that he has no effect on the plot, right?
Yeah.
And here's the second part, which is in the climax of the movie, when you watch this, he does nothing. He does not have the moment of pulling out the gun or defusing the bomb or doing the things we talked about, right? He does nothing. But you love it. And the reason you love it is he is incapacitated in the climax of the movie, in the big climax where God comes and says, da, 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 he does not move, but he says a few words, 4 words. And in those 4 words, he completely reveals what he believes about the world and what he believes about love. And it is so satisfying on an unconscious level. You go, I totally get it. It doesn't matter that he is tied to a stake and can't move. He cannot affect the plot. But when he says those things, you go, that's my boy.
I'll have a, you've literally, it's one of those movies where you look at it. I think, to be honest, I have a feeling I've watched it. I just never sat down and watched it like till the end.
Enjoy.
So now that you've mentioned it, I'm like, okay, this is clearly someone else's view who's a more trained eye than I am. So maybe
I've read a lot of scripts and watched a lot of movies.
Let me make the time.
Every one of those movies begins with the hero demonstrating he can do the thing. First act,
yeah,
the hero's going to
exactly.
shoot the gun in the third act. In the first act, you see him at the shooting range, If they're going to have superpowers in the third act, in the first act, you see them with the wand, and then they're going to use the wand. This one,
amazing.
It's so brilliantly written. You just love the character.
Man, Stephen, this has been amazing.
No,
it's amazing because I think that leads us to kind of the next and potentially final question. It's really around kind of continuous improvement, but yet within an environment of empathy.
Wow. Okay.
And this is exactly, and I think this really goes hand in hand with the platform that you've built and the members that you have. And I guess the question here is, what type of tools and what type of things you need to work on to still feel a sense of wanting to achieve a high standard of delivery and quality, and yet build around you a sense or the support that allows you to still feel a sense of empathy towards yourself and towards others who are also trying to achieve the same high standards?
It's a good question, and it's one that I don't think is the answer does not involve any platform. The answer involves leadership. And I have been an individual contributor. I've been an IC on teams that sucked. I've been on teams where I felt inspired. I've hopefully been a leader that has inspired, and I've been a leader that has sucked. And I know that. And when you ask about this sense of empathy and and happiness and like, how do I know what I'm doing is meaningful? I have found that it really comes from, number one, are you choosing a team that is doing something that aligns with your values? Like, I could never work at a social media company. I know that. Like, Laura and I have so many friends that have been at old Twitter, that are at one of the meta companies now, or at TikTok. And there's incredible money to be had. If you can figure out any way to get 1 billion people to give that site one more second of their lives every day so that can be sold to advertisers, they will make you fabulously wealthy. Your grandchildren will not need to work. You'll have so many stock options. Here's $50 million. Thank you for one more second stolen from everybody's lives, right? That's hard to argue with. I think I would be very upset with myself if I went home and I'm like, Laura, my win today is I figured out by changing the color of this button and by putting it here, we A/B tested it. And guess what? I got 1 billion people to lose a second more of their life as they're sort of doing this thing. Or I incented people to buy a product that they don't need. And, maybe they can't afford it, but they'll figure it out. It's fine, But guess what? I just got, gifted 10,000 stock options. We just made, $250,000 today because I got this bonus for figuring this thing out. Oh my God, I would feel terrible. So I think there's, number one, choosing a mission, choosing a team where you're aligned. You're going, I believe what they're doing, and then you as a leader have to make sure that the things you're asking your team are aligned with that. And that does not mean that every day you're leading your team to go slay dragons and you're all saving princesses. You know what I mean? It's not that. Some days it is boring shit. It's like,
Yeah.
hey man, there's a bug somewhere where we're like, this Boolean is becoming a string and I don't know why. Someone figure that out, right? Anybody. Larry, get on this, right? So there's that. But if the ultimate
that is so
goal,
funny. Yeah.
the ultimate goal is like, okay, you know what? Maybe that Boolean and the string mismatch thing we're going to figure out. But the bottom line is that's a really important of this CAD software. And we really need to figure out how to change this wing design or something. Like, can we go from carbon fiber to, titanium or whatever it is for this part? And we're going to enable people to fly with maybe less expense or less carbon pollution or something, in doing this. Yeah, then there is some meaning behind, okay, let's go find this type mismatch somewhere in our code base, right? So I think a lot of what you're saying, in my experience, comes from, are you leading and expressing the values that resonate with people? And if there's someone in your team that doesn't believe, maybe there's some people who don't like aviation, and you're like, oh my God, we're allowing people to see their grandkids and we're allowing people to pollute less. But some of your team is like, I don't care. I just needed a paycheck, right? Ultimately, you're not going to be able to inspire them because they're like, hey man, like, I don't care, but do I get a raise? And you're like, let me find you a company where you can do something that inspires you, because it's trading your time for money. If you don't care, is not a great way to trade the days of your life.
Yeah, and for me, thanks for sharing that, because I think I agree totally. I think leadership, it starts with leadership, right? It starts with setting the tone, with the person who actually sets, the first step forward. And I have been part of really poor teams where empathy was non-existent.
Yeah.
And yet it was a lopsided emphasis on performance and achieving and so forth. And at the end of the day, it just breaks. It doesn't go anywhere. So,
and you get burned
I
out
agree.
sooner. When you don't believe what you're doing, there's no point in working hard, because you're like, ugh, what are we doing?
Yeah. Stephen, I would like to just end with the final question, which is, you've given us so much. I feel like I've developed a friendship over the past hour, and I'm definitely gonna be calling you up on different things. So,
but awesome. I will, and go watch Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah,
call me when you do.
I definitely will. Will definitely reach out to tell you what I think. But I would like to know your perspective of. I read a LinkedIn post, I think earlier today. I think Dio, the CEO, Stephen Bartlett, was basically emphasizing the reach of AI into our lives, and deep fake and sorts of other things. How do you find the balance, or what is your strategy in utilizing AI that, of course, helps and it's here to stay, but at the same time being conscious of what it also destroys, which is that humanness, that creativity, that connection, authentic connection that essentially is not yet, potentially never, be part of a machine that is intrinsically human. In terms of your kind of your thought process, how you lead your company, what is your take on AI and just kind of the future going forward in terms of Suka?
Well, I will say this. There are, with this technology, people that do not even care to ponder the question that you asked, right? And there's definitely a movement in the world of, well, if it can be done, it should be done, as opposed to, should it be done, then let's figure out how it can be done. So I can give you my perspective, which I will, but I want to preface it with, there are enough people who feel incentivized to push this beyond what might be morally generally accepted or ethically generally accepted, that it is going to be uncaged or unleashed beyond a calm discussion that you and I have here, with a shared sense of values.
Yeah.
So I do worry about that a lot. as you know, I have a son coming this year, a daughter coming in 2 years. And that thought of like, what is the world going to be like for them? I think is very poignant for me. The same way I'm going to reference a book that turned into a movie just for a moment, which is Michael Crichton wrote a book called Rising Sun many years ago, before computer generated visual effects and like that. And he wrote this book. It became a Sean Connery, Wesley Snipes thriller that was not very good. But the book itself was about a murder that happens and all the security cameras in this high-tech building that captured the murder. But before the police get to the cameras, someone's taken the videos and doctored them so you can't see who did the murder, right? And they're presented as evidence. And at the core of what he wrote was, on a simplistic level, hey man, you can't trust what you see anymore. Like, we have tools now that can fool your senses. Like, we've been able to fool your hearing for a long time. You can hear something like, I don't know, it's live or is it memorized? I don't know. But you can fool your senses. And what his point was, he said, on a simplistic level, we now can fool your eyes. Like, you could walk into court and be like, hey, this is a shot of Paul Lynde firing a gun and killing a bunch of people. And you're like, hey man, Photoshop. Like, that's not even me. I wasn't even there, right? Yeah. So his point in this was, what do you do in a world where it's sort of post-proving anything? Like the seeing is believing sort of adage. It went away somewhere in the 70s, 80s, 90s, somewhere in that era was just like, I don't care what you showed me. Like, I know they can be mucked up. And on a deeper level, and this is what I want to get at, is he said, yeah, there's that. But think about this. All of us reading this, all of us talking about this right now, grew up in a world where we were formed with the notion of some sort of truth. There was a provable truth. You could walk in and see a photo, see a video, and be like, that is true. He said, and that formed us a certain way. So we may be 20, 30, 40, 50 years old being like, well, we know how, the courts work. He said, ponder this. What if you were 5 years old today and you grew up in a world where you didn't have any way of knowing if something was true? There is no seeing is believing. There's nothing that actually tells you if this is true. And now we live in a world where everything that is fake is labeled true. Everything that is true is labeled fake news. And there's some blurring between the two. And it's like, I think about that with my children, going like, we're in a world where, yes, it is very easy to say, hey man, you probably just made that in, choose any LLM, choose any generative AI image, creator. Like, none of that is real. So with the way this applies to me, to bring this home and answer this in a more personal way, is I'm looking to build tools where AI is an assistant, is a tool. It's why, in our platform, we call it the Smart Assistant, because it looks at your task list. It says, hey, Paul, what if you rearrange your tasks this way? Or it says, by the way, I noticed every day that you're coding in the morning, you finish your tickets faster when you listen to this playlist. Do you want me to turn that on for you? And you're like, oh yeah, that's super cool. Thanks, assistant, for recognizing my patterns. Or you always do bug fixes better in the morning and do meetings better in the afternoon. I've noticed your pattern. Do you want to try and set your schedule that way? And you're like, thank you. That's helpful, right? But there is an element of, hey, this just wrote the next movie. My writer friends are not writing movies anymore. They're unemployed because for free, people are just generating scripts. They may not be brilliant, but it is what it is. And I don't know how you tackle that, because by the nature of how LLMs work, they do learn, whether it's through reinforcement or simply by having a larger training data set, and they do get better exponentially at a very fast rate. Yeah. And that's really strange when you think about how it changes the creative fields. And you try and put, side by side, hey, you know what, Paul wrote this script, and, AI LLM wrote this script. Which one do you like? Oh, you like Paul's one? Guess what? I switched them. Actually, that was the LLM script, And you're like, oh, God, it was really good. Yeah. So that scares the hell out of me. And that's why what I want to do is I want to make tools that make our lives easier, as opposed to, I don't want to work on things that replace us.
With that said, Stephen, thanks so much for
it was super fun.
This was amazing discussion. I feel whole. I feel good. I feel excited. I feel like, okay, I feel like I'm ready to watch a movie.
Hit me up when you do. I want to know.
But thank you so much again, Stephen, for your time. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we can have you again on the podcast. And there you have it. Another amazing episode with an amazing friend that I got to meet, Stephen Puri. Amazing insights. If you had a few aha moments, be sure to check out the link of the Suka app below in the description that comes with this video or this podcast, and just really be amazed on how one can really find the intersection between tech and just ethical values that allows one to remain centered but also feel a lot more happy. Thanks again for watching. This was another episode of MoloMolo African Tech Stories. I'm Dr. PK. Until next time, ciao.